Hi guys, it's Terry here again. I'm going to be working the solutions to the January 2021 paper 3 for you guys. So this is the alternative to the SBA paper that some of the private candidates have to do. So those of you who don't have an SBA, you have to write a paper that looks like this, right? My key point here is don't underestimate this paper, please, right? So let's start. Okay, so this first question here, this question 1, the diagram shows a container of length 3A that John made to store cooking oil, right? The cross section of the container is an equilateral triangle of side A and perpendicular height each, right? So they've given us some information here, and it's a container, right? And you can pour oil into this container, right? Now, let's see what they want from this question. They said, an enlarged diagram of the triangular cross section of the container is shown below, right? So they give us basically, when they say the cross sectional area, it's this area they're talking about here. That's my cross sectional area here. So what they've done, they've given us a view of this, right? And what do they want here? An enlarged diagram, right? So they give us that. Now they want us to find the perpendicular height each in terms of E. That's what they want. The perpendicular height each in terms of E. Now if you look at this diagram carefully, right? Now you have this perpendicular height here each, right? Now if the distance from this point here to this point here is E, it means that this distance here is E divided by 2, and this distance here is A divided by 2 as well, right? Now they want us to find the perpendicular height. Now if you look carefully, let me just do it on this diagram here. So this is A over 2, this is A over 2, right? And essentially what we have a right angle triangle, right, given by this. This is a right angle triangle here, right? And you want to get the perpendicular height in terms of E. Now if you look carefully, this triangle, based on the dimensions they give us here, it's an equilateral triangle. So if this length is A, it means that this length here is also A and this here is also E, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to use Pythagoras Theorem, and how I typically teach this in class, try to tell the students, don't learn off the formula. Just remember my hypotenuse squared. In this case here, my hypotenuse is going to be A, so A squared is equal to the sum of the squares of the other two sides. So it'll be H squared plus A over 2 all squared, right? That's essentially Pythagoras' theorem here. So what we need to do now, we need to rearrange this formula so that we get H being the subject of the formula. So I'm going to just rewrite this as H squared plus A over 2 squared is equal to A squared, right? So therefore, H squared is equal to A squared minus A over 2 squared. So H squared is equal to A squared minus, when you square A over 2, that's the same as saying A over 2 multiplied by A over 2. And that's going to give me A multiplied by A is going to be A squared, and 2 by 2, that's going to give me 4. So this here is going to be A squared over 4, right? Now H squared now to simplify this, I can just tell you A squared minus A squared over 4 is really 3/4 A squared, right? But what we're going to do, we could just factorize this. Pull out A squared, and this will be 1 minus 1/4, right? So therefore, H squared is equal to A squared multiplied by 3/4, right? Because 1/4, 1 minus 1/4 is going to give me 3/4. So H squared is equal to 3A squared over 4. And therefore, H is equal to the square root of 3A squared over 4, right? Now this can be simplified further, guys. This could be written as H is equal to the square root of 3, and square root of A squared is A all over 2, right? So this is another way you can write your answer, right? Any one of those will be fine. Now, the next part they want us to do is to show that the area of the triangular cross-section in terms of A is given by this, right? So they give us a show. And like I always tell my students, this is one of those, you should aim for questions like this. So you should be happy when you see questions like this, because you know what the answer is supposed to be. Now you have a triangle. Remember, this is your triangle here. It's an equilateral triangle. So the area of a triangle is simply a half multiplied by my base multiplied by my height. Now, a half multiplied by my base, if you go back to this triangle here, my base is actually A and my height is H, right? So it's a half multiplied by A multiplied by my height, which is H. But the thing is, you just worked out H previously. You got this, right? H is equal to the square root of 3A over 2. So this is going to be a half, right? Now let me work in fractions. I'm going to write A as A over 1 multiplied by my H, which we said was square root of 3 A over 2, which is the square root of 3 multiplied by A all over 2. Now when we simplify this here, you're going to get root 3 on top. A by A gives me A squared, and then 2 by 2 gives me 4. And look, that's what they asked us to prove, which is what we did, right? So that's my area of my triangular cross-section. Now, the next part that they want us to work out here now, in this part, determine in terms of A, the volume of the container, simplifying your answer. Now, volume of a container, right, is simply my base area. So volume of a container is my cross-sectional area, right, which is A, multiplied by my length, right? That's how we essentially find the volume of a cylinder that has a uniform a solid that has a uniform cross-section, right? Now the area, you just worked out that. You got square root of 3 A squared over 4. So this is the square root of 3 A squared over 4 multiply, you need to know the length of the container. So if you go back to my original diagram, which is this, the length of the container is this. The length of the container is 3A, right? So you're multiplying by my length, which is 3A over 1. So therefore, my volume now is going to be, on the numerator, it's just going to be 3 multiplied by the square root of 3. A squared by A is going to give me A cubed divided by 4, right? So this here is my volume of the container, right? Now this said simplify your answer. That's the best you can give that there. What else do they want now? So they said given that A is 10 centimeters, so they're giving us a value for A, it's 10 centimeters. Calculate the depth of the oil in the container when John pours 800 cm cube of oil into it. So essentially what's happening here, you're going to pour oil into the container, right? So you're pouring oil into the container. So the container is being filled with some oil, right? And the question is asking, what is the depth of this oil? So the depth of this oil here is this distance that they want to find. So that's my depth of the oil that we're trying to work out here, right? Now you just worked out a formula for the volume, which was this, right? Now, let's see, hold on. Right, so my formula for the volume of the, in this case oil, right, it's 3 root 3 A cubed. So this is 3 root 3 A cubed over 4, right? That's the formula to get the volume of any liquid, the volume of a solid that is shaped like this, right? Now they told us that A is equal to 10, right? So we know that A is equal to 10 in this scenario here. And you know what the volume of the oil is? The volume of the oil is 800. Volume of the oil is 800 cm cube, right? That's the volume of the oil. Now let's make sure we're doing this properly here, right? Let's go back to my, right, so that is 3A. Oh, okay. So actually, we don't even have to use this piece here, right? The volume, right, of the container was equal to my cross-sectional area, right, multiplied by my depth or my length, right? Now the volume is 800, right? Your area, right? You had worked out a formula. You had worked out what the area was supposed to be, right? The area is root 3 and 4 a squared. So the area is root 3 a squared over 4 multiplied by L, which is the depth that we're trying to work out here. So this is D, right? That's what we're trying to find. So this is going to be 800 is equal to the square root of 3. Now A, they told us is 10, right? So this is 10 squared over 4 multiplied by D, right? So therefore 800 is equal to, now they gave us a little piece of information here that can help us. They said root 3 and 4 is approximately equal to 0.433. So therefore this is going to be 0.433 multiplied by 10 squared is 100 multiplied by D, right? So therefore D, so let's work this out in the corner here. So D is going to be equal to 800 divided by 0.433 multiplied by 100, right? You're going to use your calculator to work that out. So that's 800 divided by 0.433 multiplied by 100 is going to give me 43.3. So this here is 43.3, and therefore that depth of the oil is going to be 18.5, right? So this is about 18.5. What dimensions are we working at? We're working in cm, so this is 18.5 centimeters. That's the depth of the oil in the container, right? Because not all the oil is going to fill the container. Now, the next part, now part C, the diagram shows the net of the container opened, right? And they want us to show, right, that the area of the net in terms of A is equal to this here, right? So let's look at the diagram carefully. We knew some dimensions previously. They said this was A, right? It was an equilateral triangle. So this is A, this is A, this here is A, this is A, and this is A. And the length, right, of this original container here was given by 3A. So let's go back to our diagram here. So this here is supposed to be 3A. This is going to be 3A, right? All of this is 3A here. This is also 3A, right? Now this length here, based on the fact that it is the net of the container, this length has to be A. This length has to be A. This is A, and this is A, right? So I have all the dimensions here now. Now, what are they asking us for again? They said the area of the net. So here's what you need to do. You need to figure out my total area. Now, we already had worked out the area of one triangle. So therefore, all we need to do is to multiply that by 2. So the area of one triangle was, where was that? You worked out that the area of one triangle, you got square root 3 over 4a squared. So square root of 3 over 4a squared, that was the area of one triangle, right? But we have two triangles. So therefore that area, so the area, right, of my two triangles is, you're gonna have to multiply this by 2, right? You're multiplying this by 2, and that's gonna give me root 3 over, one sec, let me just, right, so this 2 will go into this 2 times. So this is root 3 over 2a squared. So this is for my two triangles. So this is my two triangles, right? So that's that. Next thing we need to do, let's use a different color here now. We want to get, let's work out these shapes. We have some rectangles here, right? And if we look carefully, those rectangles have the same area. They're all identical, right? So let's work out that using something else. So the area for the rectangles, right? So all we need to do, we have 3 identical rectangles. So it's 3 multiplied by the area of one rectangle, which is, remember, the area of a rectangle is length by width or length by breadth. So this is going to be 3a multiplied by e, right? That is this here is 3a and this here is a. So therefore, that will be 3a by a. So this is going to give me 3 3s are 9, a squared, right? So therefore, so that is for the 3 rectangles. So my total area now, so your total area, right, is going to be equal to, you have to add the 2 triangles, which is root 3 on 2, a squared, plus 9a squared, right? Now let's go back and see how they wanted us to write this. So they want you to write this as a half a squared, open brackets, 18 plus root 3. So let's see. Half. Right, so what we can do, we can factorize this, right? And you can pull out a half, and you can also pull out a squared, and therefore in brackets you're going to end up with root 3 plus, now if you want to get back the 9, this should be 18, right? So half a squared root 3 plus 18, I think that's what they have there, right? Yeah, half, right? So that's what they want, and they said that is approximately equal to 9.866 a squared, right? So what we're going to do, so that's my area, right? We did part of the proof here. So now we need to show that a half a squared, right, multiplied by root 3 plus 18, right? So we just need to work that out now. So that is the same as saying a half multiplied by root 3 plus 18 multiplied by a squared, right? So use your calculator to work that out. So that is the square root of 3 plus 18 multiplied by 0.5, and what I'm getting here is 9.866. Is it that? Yeah. So what I'm getting here is 9.866 a squared, right? So we've done what they asked us to do. They tell us to prove that the area is this, and also that that is equal to this figure here. So we've done that, right? Now I keep saying don't underestimate these papers, right? They can be very tricky, and especially for you private candidates. So just as a reminder, guys, I do give online maths classes, right? You can send me a message at this number here, 784-2059. I'm starting my new Form 4 class in August, right? And that is for maths, chemistry, physics, and add maths, right? So you all can contact me if you're interested, right? The Form 5 class, they're already in prep mode. So that's question 1. So question 2 now. Flagship movie rentals, right, charges an annual membership fee plus an additional fee, right? So let's see, it's an annual membership fee plus an additional fee for a weekly rental of each movie, right? So I haven't worked this question out before, so hopefully I don't make a mistake. So this is my graph here, and they have the total fee versus number of movies rented. Okay, now what do they want here? Use the graph to fill the missing information. So all they're asking us to do here is to read off some information from the graph. My total fee is $75, right? So what I need to do, I need to read off where $75 is on this scale, right? Now there are some students who they have problems reading off graphs like these. So this is 0 here. You need to figure out what each of these small lines represents. Now that has to be 10, 20, 30, 40, and then 50, right? 60, 70, and this line here looking like where it's 75, right? That looking like where it is 75. That's where my total fee is $75. So therefore, the number of movies rented, I will get 0. There are no movies rented for me to get at $75, right? Then I need to figure out this missing piece here. Number of movies rented is 50. So what I need to do, I need to come here by my graph, and I'm going to read off 50. This is, now you need to know how to read your scales, right? So if this is 40 and this is 60 here, midway between the 40 and 50, this is going to give me 50 here, right? So what we need to do, we need to draw a vertical line, right? So let me get a nice little line for you all, right? So I'm going to get a vertical line. Let's make this red and a little ticker, and let's make it dashed, right? So what we're going to do, you need to read off at the 50 mark, right? That's what I'm doing here, right? So just reduce this a little bit here, right? So then when you do that now, you need to go horizontally now and read off from your graph, where is that, right? So based on that graph there, that's what it's looking like to me, eh? Graph could be a little hard to read off here, guys, right? So that to me is looking like about, one second. Right, so that's wrong there. That's looking like about 165, so, right? That's about 165. All I'm doing here is reading off this value here, right? And that's about 165. So you're getting 2 marks for this. It's easy, 2 marks just to read off. Your biggest problem there is actually knowing how to read the scale. That's your problem. Now, they said the total fee is related by this equation here. So if you look carefully, this equation resembles what we know as the formula for a straight line. Y is equal to mx plus c. But in this case here, we're talking about t, which is my total cost, and v is the number of movies rented. And I want us to find c and m. So to find m, well, actually no, you can find c first, right? Now c is your y-intercept. That's what c is. C is your y-intercept. Where does your graph cut my y-axis? Now we know what that is already. We just worked out that. We got 75. That is where it's cutting this here. This point here, right, is my y-intercept, right? So if that's my y-intercept, then that is actually 75. So there's no calculation here, right? So C is equal to 75. That's it. There's no work in there for that. You just need to read that from your graph. Part 2 now, they want us to work out the gradient, right? So part 2, my gradient, in this case they're calling it m here, which is what we are accustomed calling it. There's a formula to find gradient. It's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, right? So that's how we find gradient. Now we need to select 2 points on the graph, right? That we can use to do that. So if I were you, I would choose 2 points that I can actually read off properly, right? So look at this point here. I can probably choose maybe, now you could choose the same point C that you had before, right? This point across here is 0.75. That y-intercept was 0.75. So you can use that as one of your points, right? And another point that you could potentially use, I'm looking for a value that's easy to read off. Let's say we go with this point here, right? That value here is going to be 180, 400, right? So those are the 2 points that I'm going to use to work out my gradient. So I'm going to use, so it's 0.75, and the second point that I'm using here is 180, 400. So this here is 180, 400, right? And what we're going to do now, what I usually tell my class to do is to label your points. So this is going to be x1, y1, and this is going to be x2, y2. And students typically ask, so how do you know which one? You just need to be consistent. So you can't use, so in this case, I'm using x1, y1 here and x2, y2 here. You can do it reverse if you want, but don't go and say x1, y2 or x2, y1. That's incorrect labeling, right? You need to be consistent. So I'm going to substitute these numbers now into my formula. So y2 is 400. So this 400 minus 75 over 180 minus 0. And you're just going to use the calculator here. So this is 400 minus 75. And I'm going to get 325. 325 over 180. And that's going to give me 1.8, right? So we're getting about 1.8, right? So that's what I'm getting here based on my graph, right? Now, the next thing they're going to ask us here, or they're asking us, according to the graph, the annual membership fee and the something fee to rent a movie. So watch. The annual membership fee, right, is the fee that you have to pay no matter what. Even if you don't borrow any movies, you still have to pay an annual fee. So based on our graph, my annual fee is actually $75. I have to pay $75 for the year, right? So this here is $75, right? And the fee to rent one movie So if you look at the formula, what the formula is going to look like is going to be this. It's going to be 1.8 multiplied by, sorry, I put V, it's going to be T. My total cost is equal to M, which is 1.8, right? Multiplied by my, how many movies are renting, plus my $75, right? So the $75 is the fixed rate no matter what. And 1.8 is the cost that I'm going to pay per movie. So therefore, this is going to be $1.80, right? So that's what it costs to rent one movie. It's $1.80, right? Now part D now, it said Brooke and her family has budgeted $700 to rent movies for the year, right? So that's how much money they can spend for the year in movies. Now they said using an equation or otherwise. So you just worked out an equation. You got T is equal to 1.8 V plus 75, right? That's my total cost, right? When you're renting from this particular company here. Now, in this case, my total budget is $700, right? So therefore, $700 is equal to 1.8 V plus 75. So essentially what I'm going to do, I'm going to solve for V and I'm going to figure out how many movies I can borrow with that money, right? So I'm going to just rewrite the equation like this. 1.8 V plus 75 is equal to 700. So therefore 1.8 V is equal to 700 minus 75. So therefore 1.8 V is equal to, so 700 minus 75, you're going to get 625. So this here is 625. So therefore V is equal to 625 over 1.8, and therefore V is equal to, so the maximum number, so I'm getting 347.22. So therefore the max, right, number of movies, right, is going to be 347, right? That's a lot of movies. So 347 movies for the year. That's how much you can borrow, right? Based on a budget of $700. And we're on the last part actually. Surprisingly, the last part is shorter than the first question though. RightStar Movie Rentals has no membership fees, but Brooke will pay $195 to rent a movie for 1 week, right? From which of the two rental clubs would Brooke be able to rent more movies on the same budget? Now, the first company had a cost equation like this: 1.8 V plus 75, right? But for RightStar Movie Rentals, you don't have any annual fee. You just have a fee for a rental, right? For every movie that you borrow is $195. So therefore, for RightStar, right, your total cost in this scenario here is going to be 1.95 multiplied by V. There's no fee, there's no yearly fee, so there's no 1.95 V plus something. There's nothing like that. So this here represents my equation for the total cost. Now again, we're using a budget of $700. So my total cost is $700, right? Total cost is $700. So all you're going to do, you're going to plug in $700 into this new equation, 1.95 V. So therefore V is equal to 700 over 1.95. So therefore V is equal to 700 divided by 1.95, and that's going to be 300 and, so this is 358.97, right? So therefore the maximum number of movies this person can borrow, max number of movies, right, is going to be 300 and, remember you have to round down in this case here, so 358 movies, right? That's the maximum number of movies. So they said show right, so which one you'll be able to rent more movies with the same budget? So RightStar is 358 and the one we got just now was 347. So therefore, so this is, what's the name of this first company? Flagship, right? So this here is, So max number of movies for the other one. So max, right, is 347. That's what we got just now, right? 347, right? But this one is for this company here, which was Flagship. So this is Flagship, right? And this one was Right Star, right? So if you just look at the numbers here, you realize you can borrow more movies from Right Star, right? So Brooke is the person's name. Yeah, Brooke. So Brooke. So you need to make a statement indicating that. So Brooke can rent more movies from Right Star, right? So this one here, this one is my bigger number, again 358 there, all right? So guys, this is question 1 and question 2 from the January 2021 paper 3. So this is for private candidates, people who don't have an SBA and you have to write a paper 3. Again, do not underestimate this paper, right? This paper is worth 20%. So if you mess this up, you can lose a lot of marks in this paper, all right? So again, guys, I do give online maths, chemistry, physics, and add maths lessons. I'm starting all these new classes from August. That is specifically for those students who are entering Form 4, right? I still have place in the Form 5 classes. So those of you who are going into Form 5, you can also join if you want to. You can contact me at this number. You can just send me a WhatsApp and I can respond to you, all right? Take care, guys.